On her very first day, she was humiliated in the company's sleek atrium. A privileged intern flung a full glass of Pepsi in her face and sneered, "Oh, please, I thought you were the custodian." Sticky soda dripped down her neck like syrup, soaking her neatly pinned hair and thin cream blouse. Laughter erupted around the atrium. She looks like she just climbed out of the storage room. But mere hours later, the CEO himself stepped before the entire office, bowed to her, and declared, "Please welcome the new chairperson of Horizon Enterprises." What happened next? And who is this woman, really? Let's dive into this remarkable story. Amara Thompson's heart pounded as she entered the elegant lobby of Horizon Enterprises headquarters in central Seattle. It was her first day at one of America's leading corporations, renowned far and wide for its celebrated workplace culture. Amara had deliberately chosen a simple cream blouse and slightly loose charcoal slacks to blend in. Her striking features, warm bronze skin, and tightly coiled black hair, neatly pulled back, masked the quiet confidence she carried. The moment she stepped inside, she felt the sharp sting of judgmental stares fixed on her. Before she could process it, a cold liquid hit her face, cascading down her hair, neck, and into her thin blouse. The sticky sweetness of Pepsi clung uncomfortably to her skin. Standing before her was Ethan Carter, a young white intern with slicked-back dark hair and an expensive tailored blazer. Ethan's mocking grin widened as he enunciated each word loudly for all to hear. "Oh, how embarrassing. I actually thought you were part of the cleaning crew. Looking at you, I figured you must have crawled up from the storage room." As his words landed, laughter rippled through the atrium like a venomous wave. Well-dressed, mostly white employees fixed their scornful gazes on Amara and hurled cruel remarks. "Look at her, probably just wearing hand-me-downs from some thrift shop. This must be her first time seeing office lights. How did someone like her even get through our doors?" A group of younger staff giggled and pulled out phones to record Amara's plight. One woman's voice rang out clearly. "Maybe this is the best LinkedIn profile picture she's ever had." The room erupted with laughter again, punctuated by whispered racial barbs. "She's only fit for janitorial work. I don't see her doing anything else. Who on earth hired her to work here?" All eyes were on Amara, waiting for her to break, cry, flee, wipe the soda away, or show outrage. Ethan reveled in the moment, high-fiving his friends as if celebrating a small victory, leaving Amara standing in the center of the atrium with the cold liquid still dripping down. But Amara refused to give them the reaction they craved. She didn't cry. She didn't run. She didn't even brush away the soda. Instead, she stood perfectly still, her gaze calm and unwavering. Her clear, steady eyes locked onto Ethan and his onlookers. Slowly, the laughter faded to murmurs, then died entirely. Silence fell, broken only by the soft drip of Pepsi hitting the floor, each drop sounding like a silent, tolling bell. Some employees shifted uncomfortably, exchanging glances, unsure of what to do now that the mockery had collapsed. A few averted their eyes entirely. Others, though curious, dared not laugh again. Ethan shot Amara one more irritated glance, frustrated that he hadn't provoked her, and turned to leave, calling back over his shoulder loud enough for her to hear, "Enjoy that moment. It'll be the highlight of your entire life." Amara remained unmoved, her hands clenched briefly before relaxing, her posture composed. The atrium slowly returned to business as usual, but everyone sensed something had shifted. Amara's silence was not weakness or fear, but the mark of an inner strength, a quiet determination signaling that something far greater was coming. No one knew that, from this moment of humiliation and blatant racism, the fate of Horizon Enterprises would begin to shift. Amara Thompson was no ordinary new hire. She held the power to decide the destiny of all who had looked down on her. But she waited. She knew that time and truth wielded the greatest power. Taking a slow, deep breath, Amara lifted her head and continued forward. Each measured step echoed softly, but with undeniable weight, marking the beginning of a dramatic, compelling journey she was about to author herself. When Amara stepped out of Horizon Enterprises' sleek atrium, each of her footsteps sounded soft, yet resolute on the polished granite floor. She gently pushed open the nearest restroom door, her face still impassive. Only once the door clicked shut behind her did a long, quiet breath escape her lips, as if she had finally allowed herself to feel a fraction of what had just happened. Standing before the mirror, she studied her reflection. Her cream blouse was soaked through with Pepsi, clinging to her form and revealing glimpses of her warm bronze skin beneath. Amara turned on the faucet and rinsed away the sticky soda drying on her face and neck. The cool water soothed some of the tension, but it couldn't wash away the deeper emotions stirring inside her. She looked at herself again, her gaze steady and determined, reminding herself of the true mission that had brought her here. Outside the restroom door, Amara could hear the sneering whispers of two passing female employees. "I don't know why the company even hired someone like her. Just look at what she's wearing. Hardly professional." Maybe they wanted to add some diversity points to their HR stats. After all, she's just a low-level staffer. Their soft laughter cut through the corridor like a tiny blade. Amara closed her eyes and inhaled deeply once more. She understood all too well the world she had stepped into. A world glittering on the surface, but riddled beneath with prejudice, hidden injustices, and covert hostility. What they didn't know, and could never have suspected, was that Amara Thompson was nothing like what they assumed. Born into one of America's most influential black families, Amara was intimately familiar with the invisible forces of power that had surrounded her since childhood. The Thompson clan was a renowned dynasty, commanding vast tech and investment empires across the United States and Asia. Her father, James Thompson, was a quietly formidable billionaire often featured in top tech magazines. Her mother, Evelyn Thompson, led several major global nonprofits, earning widespread respect for her vision and integrity. Despite her pedigree, Amara chose to live discreetly. From a young age, she understood that her true value lay not in outward trappings, but in the calm confidence, inner strength, and integrity she carried within. She forged her own path, quietly honing her skills away from the spotlight. Armed with a stellar MBA from Stanford and over 6 years of experience at her family's Asian headquarters, Amara was primed to inherit her family's legacy. But before ascending to that pinnacle, she had to complete a special challenge set by her father. "Before you can lead anything," he told her, "you must understand it from the inside. You must witness its flaws, its hidden dark corners, and vulnerabilities that no one else sees. Only then will your power truly mean something." Her father's words echoed in Amara's mind every day, and that was why she had come to Horizon Enterprises, a prestigious company known, behind closed doors, for deep-rooted internal problems. Confidential reports from Asia had repeatedly flagged a toxic work Lego, simmering racial bias, and a degraded corporate culture. It was her father's directive that Amara enter Horizon Enterprises undercover as an entry-level employee, so she could see firsthand, evaluate clearly, and then make the sweeping reforms the company needed. To those who had just demeaned her, Amara appeared to be an ordinary black woman, vulnerable and inconsequential. But they were gravely mistaken. Amara was not only heir to one of America's wealthiest families, she was also a top expert in corporate governance, having led successful turnaround projects across Asia. Composing herself, she straightened her blouse one last time and stepped back into the hallway. There, she crossed paths with Lauren Hayes, the low-level manager who had sneered at her in the elevator. Lauren gave Amara a once-over, her lips curling in condescension. In a deliberately low voice, she hissed just loud enough for Amara to hear, "Don't think you're special just because you stand out. This isn't a place for you to milk sympathy over your skin color. Know your place." Amara paused, turned slowly, and met Lauren's gaze. Her eyes were calm but charged with inner power, unwavering in the face of such blatant provocation. Lauren blinked, caught off guard by the sharp intensity of Amara's stare, and looked away. In a soft but crystal-clear voice, Amara replied, "I'm here to work, not to please you or anyone else." She continued on her way, leaving Lauren standing stunned and angry in her wake. But this was only the beginning of what was to come. The truth of Amara's identity and the secret mission she was carrying out would exact a price far higher than any of her tormentors could imagine. Amid the bustling corridor, Amara Thompson blended quietly into the flow of employees, unassumingly yet with undeniable authority, walking confidently toward her new office. She knew the road ahead would be fraught with obstacles, but that was precisely why she was here, at this moment, ready for the battle she had prepared for all her life. When Amara emerged from the long corridor, Lauren's jibes still reverberated in her mind like an unending discordant note. Soft light streamed in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a bright but strangely cold glow on the space ahead. As she approached the main employee elevators, Amara reached out to press the call button, only to hear a familiar voice lash out like an invisible whip. "Excuse me, didn't you see the sign?" Lauren Hayes stood there, flanked by 3 young, white, mid-level managers, all smirking. Her auburn hair was perfectly styled, her green eyes sharp, and her navy blazer hugged her form just so, an unmistakable display of privilege and self-satisfaction. Behind her, Noah Bradley, Emma Stone, and Caleb Foster crossed their arms, eyes brimming with mockery. Amara slowly withdrew her hand and lifted her gaze to Lauren. Her expression remained composed, not a flicker of hurt or surprise. "This elevator is for managers and senior staff only," Lauren continued, her tone dripping with contempt as her thin lips curled into a sneer. "Lower-level employees like you should use the service elevator in the back. I suggest you get used to that." The group laughed out loud, and curious onlookers cast glances at Amara. The air grew thick, as if everyone were waiting for her to crack under pressure. But Amara said nothing. Instead, she calmly studied the name tags of the people before her. Lauren Hayes, Physics System. Hayes, Noah Bradley, Emma Stone, and Caleb Foster. Up-and-coming managers, all born into wealth with ties to the board. No wonder they felt entitled to belittle anyone they deemed beneath them. Noah Bradley, adjusting his gray tie, chimed in with extra arrogance. "You know, this is a world-class company. We can't have someone tarnishing our image." He sneered at Amara's simple attire. "Honestly, I don't understand why you think you belong in the same elevator as us." Next to him, Emma Stone, sharp-featured and cool-headed, tilted her head in mock sympathy. "We're actually doing you a favor. You should thank us for showing you the way. Otherwise, you'd mess up our shared workspace." Their laughter rang out, piercing the silence like a challenge. No one around dared intervene. The tension was palpable. Every other sound felt distant. Amara stood still, her eyes unwavering as they met each of theirs. There was no sign of weakness or fear. In fact, her serene silence and steady gaze began to unsettle the group. They had expected anger or a meltdown. Instead, they faced her unshakable calm, a silent defiance that threw them off balance. After a brief pause, Amara spoke quietly but firmly, her voice resonant. "Understood. I'll remember what you said today." Before any of them could react, she turned on her heel and headed for the stairwell, leaving behind a stunned hush and frozen expressions. She didn't look back. Her steadfast posture and unflinching eyes had already conveyed her message. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, this time tinged with uncertainty. "How is she so calm?" Emma hissed in irritation. Lauren forced a laugh, masking her sudden unease. "She's just putting on a front. People like her always pretend to be strong to hide their insecurities." Yet her voice lacked conviction. Something in Amara's poised response had rattled her. Meanwhile, Amara climbed the stairs with steady steps. She knew better than anyone that her fight against deep-seated bias and social hierarchy was only beginning. But she also knew that her calm dignity and self-respect were her most powerful weapons, enough to deflect the prejudice and scorn of people like Lauren and her cronies. Amara set foot on the top landing of the stairwell, her heart beating steadily, each thump marking a silent resolve. She smoothed the crisp cream blouse still streaked with dried soda, her eyes sweeping down the long, silent corridor. The office doors were all closed, and the cold, white glow of overhead lights made the hallway so quiet she could hear her own footsteps. Suddenly, at the far end of the corridor, a lone figure stood motionless. It was Eleanor Brooks, Horizon Enterprises' longtime senior advisor, a formidable yet reserved presence, famed for her razor-sharp judgment. Her gray hair was neatly styled, her expression stern, and her simple black outfit radiated a quiet authority that commanded respect from anyone who met her. Eleanor watched Amara approach with piercing eyes, as if reading straight through the newcomer's plain attire to the thoughts she kept hidden inside. When Amara drew near, Eleanor gave a slight knowing nod, her gaze discreetly pleased, yet full of meaning. "Miss Thompson," Eleanor said softly, just loud enough for Amara to hear, her tone calm and measured. "I've been waiting for you a long time." Amara paused before her, surprised for a moment, then swiftly regained her composure. "Miss Brooks?" Eleanor studied her again, her eyes confirming something of great importance. After a brief silence, she produced from her black leather bag a thick dossier stamped in bold red letters. "Top secret, Horizon Enterprises restructuring." "This is why you're really here, isn't it?" Eleanor murmured, as she handed the files over in one swift, definitive motion. "We've been eager to see you arrive." Amara took the dossier, feeling its weight and the significance of the information inside. She met Eleanor's gaze, trying to discern the true intent of this formidable woman. Eleanor was known to be hard to approach, and even harder to trust. "You knew who I was?" Amara asked quietly, cautious. Eleanor gave a faint smile, stern, but a touch softer around the eyes. I know your father well. James Thompson has been a close friend for years. When he said he'd be sending his only daughter to Horizon Enterprises, I understood this company was on the brink of its biggest transformation ever. At the mention of her father, Amara relaxed slightly. She knew how meticulous and discerning he was when choosing allies. His trust in Eleanor meant Amara could place her confidence in her completely. My father thinks very highly of you, Amara said gently, her expression easing. Eleanor's gaze sharpened again as she continued gravely. And I have equally high expectations for you. But be careful, Amara. What you endured downstairs was only the beginning. Lauren Hayes and her group of young managers are favorites of the board. They embody the very injustice and bias we need you to help eradicate. Hearing this, Amara looked down at the dossier in her hands, her heart tightening. This was no ordinary assignment. These documents would decide Horizon Enterprises' future and affect countless lives within the company. Unseen by them, around the corner at the end of the hall, a young staffer named Maya Chen happened to pass by. Mia was an ordinary office employee, but naturally curious. She overheard fragments of the conversation and caught sight of the classified dossier in Amara's hands. Mia paused, pressing herself against the wall, straining to catch every whisper. Though she couldn't make out every word, Eleanor Brooks's presence and the seriousness of her tone convinced Mia this was no routine discussion. Restructuring, Mia murmured under her breath, her eyes alight with curiosity and unease. She didn't fully understand what was unfolding, but her instincts told her that Amara was far more than she appeared. This must be connected to a major shakeup coming soon. Eleanor glanced toward the hallway's corner as if sensing someone's presence, but Mia slipped away quickly, pretending not to have heard. She hurried down the corridor, her pulse racing and her mind buzzing with questions. Eleanor turned back to Amara, her voice urgent. Be careful. It seems they have eyes everywhere. Amara tightened her grip on the dossier, her gaze more resolute than ever. I understand. Thank you. Eleanor placed a reassuring hand on Amara's shoulder, a rare gesture that spoke volumes of her confidence in the young woman before her. Remember, Amara, I'm on your side, but this will be a long fight, and you must stay strong. Amara nodded, determination shining in her eyes. Eleanor departed swiftly, leaving Amara alone in the quiet hallway. Again, she squeezed the dossier, her heart calm but alert like never before. She knew she was no longer alone, yet she also understood that this mission would be exponentially more challenging, and Amara Thompson was ready to face it all. As Amara walked slowly toward the break room at the end of the hall, the top-secret dossier still firmly in her hand, the pale fluorescent lights overhead lit the narrow corridor, as if spotlighting her every step. Though she appeared calm on the outside, inside her mind was racing through all the information Eleanor Brooks had just entrusted to her. When she pushed open the break room door, the chatter abruptly stopped. A group of young marketing staff sat around the central round table. Their laughter from moments before died instantly, replaced by scrutinizing, challenging stares as Amara entered. The most prominent among them was Caleb Foster, a sharply dressed young marketer in a tailored suit, neatly combed brown hair, and a half-smirk that radiated smug superiority. The moment he saw Amara, he curled his lip in contempt and called out loudly to his colleagues. Well, look who finally showed up, Caleb announced, glancing theatrically around. I'm starting to wonder if Horizon Enterprises plans to create a new role, specialist for the misfits. At his words, the group erupted in laughter. Some covered their mouths to giggle, while others openly stared at Amara with blatant disdain. But she simply remained silent, walked over to the coffee machine, and began making herself a shot of espresso, completely ignoring their barbs. Frustrated by her lack of reaction, Caleb furrowed his brow and signaled to a colleague, Zoe Patel, a social media whiz known for her viral trends. Zoe immediately pulled out her phone, trained the camera on Amara, and whispered just loud enough for her friends to hear, "Hashtag not here to clean up, FYI. Just look at her outfit, like it was picked up at a thrift store." Louder laughter followed, as several people snapped photos, eager to join in Zoe's jest. Caleb continued his mocking tone. "Honestly, I never thought Horizon would lower its hiring standards this much. What exactly are they trying to prove?" Another team member, Liam Nguyen, chimed in with a loud chuckle. "Maybe they think that's enough to check the diversity box. Just bring in someone like her." Liam tossed his head dismissively, clearly targeting Amara's skin color. "Makes sense, since nobody expects her to actually do anything important." Their laughter grew sharper and more aggressive. Amara stood by the coffee machine, pressing the brew button and watching the espresso drip into the small cup. From the outside, she seemed perfectly composed, but inside, she felt the tension building like an undercurrent ready to surge. Caleb, annoyed by her silence, deliberately stepped closer, leaning against the table next to her with arms crossed, his voice dripping with provocation. "So what, Ms. Thompson? Nothing to say? Or have you realized we were right?" The whole group held its breath, waiting for her response. Finally, Amara turned to Caleb with clear, powerful eyes and an unshakable calm on her face. She lifted the steaming cup to her lips, took a slow sip, then replied in a deep, measured voice, "I'm just wondering, when the truth comes out, will you still be proud of what you said?" The atmosphere in the room froze. Caleb's smirk and the others' grins vanished in an instant. They hadn't expected such a poised, incisive answer. Zoe instinctively lowered her phone, her planned hashtag suddenly feeling clumsy and out of place. Caleb stammered for a moment, then tried to muster his usual arrogance, though his unease was clear. "Are you threatening me? Who do you think you are to say that?" Amara gently set her cup down, offering a faint, steady smile that radiated resolve. "I don't need to threaten anyone. I've just observed that sometimes the words we speak come back to find us sooner than we expect." With that, she grabbed her confidential dossier and walked out of the break room, leaving the marketing team staring after her in stunned silence. Caleb's initial confidence was completely shattered. Anger and confusion flickered in his eyes as he realized for the first time he was facing someone far tougher than he'd assumed. Zoe glanced at Caleb, whispering in bewilderment, "What do you think she meant by that?" Caleb ground his teeth, trying to conceal his growing insecurity. "She's putting on a show, but still we should be careful." Meanwhile, Amara strode down the hallway with steady purpose, unaffected by the showdown she'd endured. Inside, however, she knew full well she had just declared the start of a quiet war. And in that battle, Amara Thompson understood she would need to be more prepared than ever, because her adversaries weren't just arrogant young marketers, but an entire system steeped in prejudice and injustice. And she was ready to do whatever it took. When Amara left the break room, she walked down the hallway with a calm expression, though her heart still pounded from the tension. What had just happened was only the first warning. The real battle still lay ahead. The wary glances and hushed whispers that followed her passage made it clear she was on a rocky, challenging path. That evening, Horizon Enterprises hosted a grand gala in the largest ballroom of a downtown Seattle hotel, celebrating 10 years of strategic partnership with its Asian parent company. The entire staff, from entry-level associates to the executive team, filled the glittering room. Crystal glasses caught the light. Jazz music drifted through the air, but beneath the glamour simmered a current of unspoken tension. Amara entered wearing a simple yet elegant outfit, a cream silk blouse, a knee-length black skirt, and her curls pulled back neatly. Her understated presence immediately drew curious, assessing stares. Many recognized the young woman who'd been mocked that morning and watched her every move, waiting for the next drama. Across the room, Ethan Carter stood among his fellow young staffers, his confidence and arrogance on full display. The moment he spotted Amara, his gaze locked on her. He bristled at how composed she looked, unshaken by his earlier taunts. He saw it as a challenge to the social status he prized so highly. Anger flared in Ethan's chest. He couldn't let someone like Amara roam freely at this upscale event. A cruel idea popped into his head. Grabbing a glass of Pepsi from a passing waiter's tray, he strode purposefully toward her, face set in scorn. As he reached her, Ethan suddenly tipped the entire cold glass over Amara. Dark soda splashed across her pristine cream blouse, dripped into her hair, and onto her face once again. The room fell utterly silent as every eye turned to watch her reaction. Ethan sneered at her, raising his voice so everyone could hear. "I thought you'd figured it out by now. This place isn't meant for people like you, Amara." His tone dripped with malice and racial condescension as he emphasized each word. "No matter how politely you act, your background and skin color never change." A few of his friends tittered, ensuring their laughs carried through the stifling hush. Others glanced at Amara with awkward curiosity, unsure what to do in the tense moment. Amara stood perfectly still, soaked through, her hair plastered by the soda, yet her eyes never wavered or showed panic. Instead, she locked her gaze on Ethan, calm, piercing, unyielding, like a mountain that refuses to bow before any storm. Seeing her unflinching poise, Ethan felt a flicker of unease, but he hid it by raising his voice even louder in mockery. "Do you really think strolling in here changes anything? Let me tell you, you'll always be an outsider, desperately trying to squeeze into a world that isn't yours." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, but no one intervened. All eyes were on Amara, waiting for her to snap. But she remained silent. She stood tall in her soaked clothes, her presence alone commanding the room. In that charged stillness, it became clear who truly held control. Not Ethan, but Amara. An uncomfortable silence stretched on. Frustrated that she refused to react, Ethan spun on his heel and stalked away, calling back over his shoulder to reassure himself and his friends. "She's not worth any more of our attention." Yet his voice no longer carried its earlier swagger. Though people slowly turned away from Amara, the tension remained. Everyone sensed that after tonight's incident, nothing would ever be the same. And Amara Thompson knew it too. She understood that this was her final threshold, the turning point that marked the start of her real fight. By attacking her so brazenly, Ethan had unwittingly declared open war. Now it was up to Amara to respond, with truth and real power, and Ethan and his allies would soon learn just how fiercely she was prepared to defend herself. The heavy tension in the room persisted as Amara slowly brushed the sticky Pepsi from her hair. Her gaze remained calm and proud, yet ice-cold, plunging everyone around her into an unsettling silence. Ethan deliberately turned his back and walked away, but his steps were hurried and uneasy, stripped of their earlier confidence. Just as the silence became almost unbearable, a commanding voice rang out from the far end of the ballroom, drawing every eye to the speaker's entrance. It was none other than David Parker, Horizon Enterprises' young, famously decisive CEO. David's face was unusually stern and cold. He strode toward Amara, each footfall echoing with quiet authority. When he reached her side, the entire room fell into absolute stillness. Ethan and Lauren, standing not far off, felt their hearts pound as they met the CEO's grave gaze. Before he spoke, David inclined his head in deep respect toward Amara, an act so unexpected that the room collectively gasped. A powerful, prideful CEO bowing before a brand-new employee? It was beyond anyone's imagination. "I offer my sincerest apologies for what just transpired, Miss Thompson," David said clearly, his tone both serious and heartfelt. He met Amara's eyes with complete respect. "This is not how Horizon Enterprises treats anyone, especially the future leader of this company." His words hit the room like a bomb. Whispers and murmurs rippled through the ballroom as stunned guests struggled to comprehend what they'd just heard. Ethan went pale, frozen in place as David's declaration sank in. "A leader?" Ethan muttered, his voice barely audible, panic tightening in his chest. David turned to Ethan, his gaze so sharp that Ethan instinctively took a step back. For the first time in his life, he felt small and powerless under the CEO's icy stare. "That's correct," David announced, his voice ringing through the hall. "Ms. Amara Thompson has been officially appointed by our board of directors and our Asian parent company as the new chairperson of Horizon Enterprises USA, and that is precisely why she is here tonight." Gasps of disbelief filled the room. Everyone looked at Amara with fresh astonishment, curiosity mingled with fear. Lauren stood mute beside Ethan, her face drained of color, lips trembling into silence. "No, it can't be," Lauren whispered in horror, feeling as if her world had collapsed beneath her feet. At that moment, Eleanor Brooks emerged from a corner of the ballroom, her composed expression unshaken, but her eyes steely with resolve. She raised a hand toward a small, red, blinking security camera in the ceiling. "All of your recent actions and comments have been fully recorded," Eleanor declared in her authoritative tone. "Most notably, the racially charged remarks made by Ethan Carter, Lauren Hayes, and other involved staff members." She fixed her gaze on Ethan and Lauren, her voice delivering an unspoken verdict. "I trust you understand this is not something we can simply overlook. Such conduct is a severe violation of the core values Horizon Enterprises upholds." Eleanor's words struck the last remnants of Ethan's confidence. He looked helplessly to Lauren for support, but she was visibly shaken, pale and trembling, as though about to collapse. Those implicated could sense the consequences closing in. A young employee next to Ethan began to shake, whispering in panic. "What? What do we do now, Ethan?" But Ethan had no answer. He remained rooted to the spot, his eyes vacant as he stared at Amara, realizing for the first time how badly he had misjudged the woman he'd belittled all day. Amara remained unmoved, showing neither triumph nor anger. She simply held Ethan, Lauren, and the others in a steady, unwavering gaze, an unspoken message more powerful than any words. Her silence spoke volumes, resonating more fearsomely than any outburst would. David Parker surveyed the room, his tone now firmer than ever. "Let me be clear. Horizon Enterprises will never tolerate any form of racial discrimination or personal insult. Those involved will be immediately suspended, pending an internal investigation." The ballroom fell into a suffocating silence, everyone grasping the gravity of the moment. Ethan reeled, understanding this could end not just his promising career, but also his reputation forever. Finally, Amara spoke, her voice soft yet resonant with authority. "Thank you, David. I believe that, starting today, we will truly begin to rebuild this company's culture the right way." Her words hung in the hush, and every person there felt this was more than a statement. It was the dawn of a complete transformation at Horizon Enterprises. The grand ballroom fell into an eerie silence immediately after Amara's declaration, as if no one quite believed what had just happened. Ethan stood frozen, his face drained of color, his previous arrogance completely vanished. Beside him, Lauren trembled, panic in her eyes as she caught the icily sharp gaze of David Parker, the stern CEO standing before her. David slowly turned to Eleanor and gave her a subtle nod. She immediately stepped toward Ethan and Lauren, her voice clear and chilling enough to make them shiver. Ethan Carter, Lauren Hayes, and anyone else directly involved in the incident just now, you are suspended from your duties effective immediately. An internal investigation will be launched to determine full responsibility. Ethan went pale and tried to protest weakly, panic in his voice. Wait, Ms. Brooks, this must be a misunderstanding. I didn't. Eleanor cut him off with a single ice-cold look that silenced him instantly. Security cameras don't lie, Ethan. If you truly did nothing wrong, I'm confident this investigation will clear your name. Her tone was authoritative and unemotional, like a judge delivering a verdict. Lauren, near collapse, cast a desperate glance at the CEO, but David simply turned away, as though he could not bear to look at her any longer. The young staffers clustered behind Ethan and Lauren exchanged worried glances, realizing they'd been swept into a crisis more severe than they ever imagined. The air in the room grew thick with tension and panic. The other employees watched quietly, eyes downcast. No one dared defend those just suspended. The price Ethan and Lauren would pay was starkly evident. A stern lesson for anyone who tolerated or took part in racist or demeaning behavior at Horizon Enterprises. Throughout it all, Amara remained perfectly still. Her calm, dignified bearing never wavered. She showed neither triumph nor anger. Instead, her composed professionalism only deepened everyone's respect. It was the clearest demonstration of true leadership, someone who upholds fairness and doesn't let personal emotion cloud her duty. Please cooperate fully with this investigation, David continued, his voice decisive and clear. Those involved will have the opportunity to present their side. But remember, this process will be guided by facts, not excuses. At that, Horizon Enterprises security personnel stepped forward firmly but politely and escorted Ethan, Lauren, and the others out of the room. Ethan lowered his head to avoid the stares of his colleagues, his steps weighed down by the gravity of what he'd done. Lauren said nothing, trailing after him with red-rimmed eyes. Whether from shame, anger, or fear, no one could tell. Once they were gone, Amara spoke softly, breaking the heavy silence. I know what just happened may unsettle all of you, but now is the time to face reality and rebuild the true values of Horizon Enterprises. No one, regardless of rank or power, has the right to demean another human being. She paused for a moment, looking around at her colleagues, her tone gentle yet unwavering. We will rely on truth and justice to restore trust. I believe that starting today, each of us will become more conscious of our responsibilities, to each other and to society. Her heartfelt words resonated in the hushed ballroom, prompting many to nod in agreement. They understood that this was a pivotal moment for the company to confront long-standing problems once hidden away. David joined Amara's side, his respect evident. His voice was soft but resolute. I fully support what you've said, Amara. I promise this investigation will be thorough and fair. Anyone found to have acted improperly will be held accountable. Amara offered a light smile, her face reflecting determination and confidence. Thank you, David. I trust that the truth will always defend itself. In that moment, everyone realized Amara wasn't seeking personal revenge. She was simply doing what a true leader must do. Her professionalism, courage, and compassion earned genuine admiration from all. No one dared look at her with contempt again. At the back of the room, Eleanor watched silently, a discreet smile of satisfaction playing on her lips. She knew justice had been served fairly and rightly. Amara was indeed worthy of her new role as chairperson of Horizon Enterprises. Meanwhile, Ethan and Lauren emerged from the ballroom, the weight of their consequences settling heavily upon them. Ethan realized his arrogance and prejudice had cost him dearly. Lauren lowered her gaze, tears in her eyes, fully aware she had lost everything through thoughtless pride. They both understood there was no turning back. The irrefutable evidence from the security cameras served as the strongest indictment, and Amara Thompson, the woman they'd abused, was now the one who would decide their fate at Horizon Enterprises. The silent struggle had entered a new chapter, one in which justice and dignity would speak with the greatest force. Right after the great doors closed behind Ethan and Lauren, Amara quietly made her way back to her private office on the top floor of Horizon Enterprises. The hallway still carried the tension of the evening's events, but there was also a faint sense of relief now that justice had finally begun to be served. She sank into the soft leather chair and turned to look out the large window which framed the city skyline. Amara knew better than anyone that her battle at Horizon wasn't just about demonstrating the power of authority or punishing those who had looked down on her. Above all, it was about restoring the deep human values in every employee, values that had been forced underground for far too long. After a moment, a gentle knock sounded at the door, drawing her from her thoughts. "Come in," Amara said softly. The door opened to reveal Jamal Lewis, a young IT specialist with a lean frame, dark skin, and bright, eager eyes. Jamal had been the one to quietly hand Amara a tissue the first time Ethan attacked her with soda. A small gesture, but one that had revealed his genuine kindness. "Miss Thompson, you wanted to see me?" Jamal stepped inside, his voice low but tinged with nervousness at standing before someone of her authority for the first time. Amara stood and offered him a warm smile. "Jamal, I wanted to thank you. What you did may have seemed small, but it meant a great deal to me when I was most isolated." Jamal flushed, surprised. "Oh, it was nothing, ma'am. Anyone in that situation would have done the same." She shook her head, her eyes full of sincere appreciation. "No, Jamal, not everyone would have shown such kindness. And today, I want the whole company to know that kindness and decency will always be recognized and rewarded." She reached for a large envelope on her desk and passed it to him, her gaze unwavering. "Effective immediately. You're promoted to Head of Technical Infrastructure Management at Horizon Enterprises." Jamal took the envelope, his eyes widening in astonishment and emotion. His heart raced. In all his years here, he'd worked quietly behind the scenes, never expecting recognition, especially not from the company's new chairperson. "Miss Thompson, I don't know what to say," he stammered, voice thick with gratitude. Amara smiled and patted his shoulder. "Thank you, Jamal. It's I who should be thanking you. Keep working with the same heart and dedication. People like you are exactly what this company needs." Jamal nodded emphatically, determination shining in his eyes. "You can count on me. I won't let you down." After Jamal left the office, Amara called down to Human Resources and asked them to send up Sofia Rivera, another young administrative assistant who had quietly helped Amara gather scattered papers when Caleb Foster's group ridiculed her in the break room. Sophia had stayed behind to help without a word, offering a gentle, empathetic smile. Moments later, Sophia appeared at the door, looking anxious and hesitant, her hands wringing together, eyes wide with anticipation. Sophia, do you remember my first day here? Amara asked softly. Sophia's eyes widened in surprise, and she nodded quietly. Yes, I remember. You helped me so much that day. I want you to know I've never forgotten it, Amara said, her gaze warm with gratitude. Sophia blushed, voice trembling. Miss Thompson, I just thought it was the right thing to do. And it's precisely that instinct that makes you special, Amara replied. She reached across the desk and handed Sophia a formal appointment letter. Starting today, you are my senior executive assistant. I need someone kind and trustworthy to help me rebuild Horizon Enterprises. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes, and she began to weep softly, shoulders trembling. After a few moments, she managed, Miss Thompson, this is the greatest honor of my life. Amara stepped around her desk and placed a comforting hand on Sophia's shoulder. Sophia, you deserve this role. Your kindness, sincerity, and hard work will bring immense value to our company. Sophia wiped her tears, voice steadying with resolve. Thank you, Miss Thompson. I will never disappoint you. Once Sophia departed, Amara returned to her desk, a profound sense of relief and warmth filling her heart. This was why she had come, not only to address injustice and wrongdoing, but to rebuild trust and hope in the quiet goodness that lives in every person. Outside the window, the soft glow of the late afternoon sun spread across the city, as if smiling upon the positive changes taking root within the company. Amara smiled to herself, confident that this was the beautiful new beginning she had long been waiting for. No sooner had Ethan and Lauren disappeared through the great doors than Amara quietly returned to her private office on the top floor of Horizon Enterprises. The hallway still bore the tension of the evening's events, but there was also a subtle sense of relief now that justice had begun to prevail. She settled into the soft leather chair and gazed out the large window at the sprawling city below. Amara understood better than anyone that her fight at Horizon was never about wielding power or punishing those who had belittled her. It was about restoring the deep human values of respect and dignity that every employee deserved, but which hadn't been felt here for far too long. Before she could lose herself in thought, the phone on her desk began ringing in rapid succession. One after another, calls were coming in from major news outlets. Newspapers and media platforms, all clamoring for details about the shocking racism scandal at Horizon Enterprises. The story spread with lightning speed. Security camera footage of Ethan Carter hurling Pepsi at Amara, accompanied by his viciously racist remarks, was ripped onto social media. Within hours, the incident had become the nation's top headline. Bold newspaper banners blared, Horizon Enterprises rocked by major racism scandal. Senior Horizon staffer insults new chair, shameful conduct in central Seattle. Security footage exposes the truth behind esteemed corporation. On every social platform, #justice. For Amara trended at the top. Millions condemned Ethan, Lauren, and their cohorts for blatant discrimination. Furious comments flooded in. Unbelievable that a prestigious firm like Horizon Enterprises would tolerate racists on its payroll. I'm utterly disappointed in Horizon. They must take stronger action. Ethan Carter and Lauren Hayes should be held fully accountable. They have no place in any workplace. Meanwhile, Ethan and Lauren were swept into an unprecedented media maelstrom. Ethan returned home in a state of panic, each step feeling like he was descending into a bottomless abyss. His phone buzzed relentlessly with scathing messages and threats from strangers. He couldn't bear to answer a single call. The harsh judgments on social media played on a loop in his mind, as if the entire world had turned against him. Who does he think he is, attacking an innocent woman? Ethan Carter must be driven out of the business world immediately. Lauren fared no better. She teetered on the brink of collapse as she realized the colossal fallout of her actions. She frantically called former allies and close business partners, but no one answered. Colleagues who once flocked around her now coldly cut ties. Her LinkedIn and social media profiles were besieged with hateful comments, leaving her too terrified to glance at her phone. In less than 48 hours, both Ethan and Lauren received the email. The internal investigation's findings were in. They were officially terminated for gross violations of Horizon Enterprises' ethics and culture standards. Media outlets rushed to publish the news, intensifying the fallout. Economists and prominent commentators on major channels weighed in, highlighting the severe failures in corporate ethics and workplace culture, using Horizon Enterprises as a cautionary case study. Many noted that this scandal was a wake-up call for every company. The real cost of permitting discrimination in the workplace. All the while, Amara, now the public face of the crisis, remained poised and professional before the press. When asked how she felt, she responded with calm authority. "This isn't about my personal feelings. It's about what we learned from this incident. It's a moment for us to re-examine the core values of every individual and every organization." Her humility, resilience, and composed leadership only amplified public admiration. She became a symbol of self-respect, strength, and exemplary leadership, an inspiring contrast to the disgrace and failure that had engulfed Ethan and Lauren. In the days that followed, Ethan disappeared from view, refusing all contact and hiding in his apartment, terrified of every incoming message. He knew his career in this field was over. Lauren even abandoned her luxury apartment, desperate to escape Seattle and the relentless online outrage. Back at Horizon Enterprises, the atmosphere turned positive. Employees began to truly appreciate the importance of a respectful, civilized workplace. Workshops and training sessions on ethics and corporate culture sprang up, using the scandal as a powerful lesson in zero tolerance for discrimination. Looking out her office window at the gentle afternoon light, Amara recognized that the storm had passed, but the lesson would endure. She knew the impact extended far beyond Ethan and Lauren. It was a powerful reminder to society that kindness, respect, and human dignity must always come first. And Amara Thompson would continue to stand firm on that path, protecting those values with every ounce of her heart and resolve. In the days after the storm of scandal subsided, Horizon Enterprises gradually returned to its usual, steady rhythm of work. Although Amara had become a powerful symbol of self-respect and dignity, she remained humble and unassuming each morning as she walked into the office. That day, she arrived earlier than usual, savoring a rare moment of quiet before the day began. Stepping out of the elevator, Amara's gaze paused in the broad hallway leading to her office. There, a familiar figure was quietly polishing the floor-to-ceiling glass panels. Clara Johnson, a silver-haired black woman who had handled maintenance at Horizon Enterprises for over 20 years. Slight of frame, her face marked by time's lines and her hair streaked white, Clara nonetheless carried a gentle warmth in her eyes. Seeing Amara approach, Clara set down her rag and gave a warm, surprised smile, an expression of respect and affection, unburdened by any notion of hierarchy. "Good morning, Miss Amara," she said softly. "You're in early today?" "Good morning, Clara," Amara replied with a friendly smile, her eyes reflecting genuine respect. "I like to enjoy a little quiet at the start of the day, and it's a pleasure to see you here." Clara hesitated at the unexpected warmth, then stepped forward bravely, admiration shining in her gentle eyes. "Miss Amara, I just wanted you to know I've witnessed everything you've endured. I've been here long enough to know how hard it is to withstand cruel, racist words, but you showed us what true strength looks like." Clara's voice trembled with emotion, her sincerity touching Amara's heart and forging a deep bond between two women of different generations sharing a painful memory. Amara placed a reassuring hand on Clara's shoulder, her expression tender and sincere. "Thank you, Clara. Your words mean the world to me." Wiping away a tear, Clara continued in a quiet but firm tone. "I've always believed kindness and patience would win out. You are living proof of that belief, Amara. I'm so proud of you." Amara paused, feeling a warm glow from Clara's heartfelt words. She remembered the first time she was humiliated, standing in the grand lobby with soda dripping down her face, and how Clara's anxious, compassionate glance had been one of the few sparks of humanity that helped her stand strong. "Clara," Amara said softly, "I've never forgotten that look of concern and empathy you gave me that day. It lifted me when I needed it most." Clara's eyes widened in surprise. She never imagined that small gesture would linger in Amara's memory. Tears gathered again as she realized her simple kindness had touched someone so deeply. Amara reached into her desk drawer and produced a large envelope she had prepared in advance, handing it to Clara with both hands. Her voice was clear and heartfelt. "Clara Johnson, I've given this a lot of thought, and I can't imagine anyone more deserving of the role of facility supervisor at Horizon Enterprises. Your dedication, loyalty, and love for this company are truly inspiring." Clara was stunned, her hands shaking as she took the envelope. She blinked back tears of joy and disbelief. "Oh, Amara, I don't know what to say. I never dreamed my small work would be so noticed and appreciated." "It was you who earned this, Clara," Amara replied gently. "You and all those who quietly give their best are the real strength of this company." Clara wiped her tears and smiled warmly. "I will do my very best, Amara. Thank you for this opportunity." As Clara made her way down the corridor, her heart brimming with pride and happiness, Amara watched her go. In that moment, Amara knew that this gesture was more than just offering a new position. It was sending a message about compassion, fairness, and the true value of kindness. The hallway returned to its morning stillness, but Amara felt lighter and more at peace than ever. She understood that challenges still lay ahead, but with the empathy, goodwill, and sincerity of people like Clara alongside her, everything would be that much more meaningful and hopeful. And Amara Thompson was determined to keep walking this path, confident that the power of kindness could overcome any prejudice or injustice in any circumstance. Just after her touching moment with Clara Johnson, Amara returned to her office, the warmth in her heart still lingering. She eased into her familiar chair and gazed out the wide window as the gentle morning sun bathed the entire city of Seattle. But barely a few minutes later, the phone on her desk rang, shattering that brief calm. "Amara Thompson speaking," she answered, her tone steady and professional. "Good morning, Ms. Thompson. This is Jonathan Reed, Executive Secretary from our Asian parent company," came the dignified voice on the other end. "The Board of Directors has made its official decision regarding your role at Horizon Enterprises USA. I've just sent an email announcement to you and to every employee at headquarters." Amara immediately opened her inbox on the computer. Just as Jonathan said, a prominently titled message had arrived for the entire company. Subject: Official Appointment of New Horizon Enterprises USA CEO. The body of the email read decisively, "We, the board of directors of the Asian parent company formally appoint Ms. Amara Thompson as Chief Executive Officer of Horizon Enterprises USA. Effective immediately, Ms. Thompson will have full authority over and responsibility for all company operations. All departments and personnel are required to fully cooperate with and support CEO Thompson during the company's restructuring and growth. Any resistance or lack of cooperation will be considered a serious violation and will be addressed accordingly. Amara paused for a moment, absorbing the weight of the authority and responsibility now officially vested in her. This was the moment that unequivocally confirmed she was the one steering Horizon Enterprises' destiny. Across the company, employees buzzed with excitement at the official announcement. Those who had once doubted or insulted Amara now faced the consequences of their actions. Meanwhile, those who had quietly supported her felt proud and invigorated, their faith in fairness and dignity validated like never before. A few minutes later, Amara summoned Ryan Patel, the young head of strategic planning who had remained neutral and respectful throughout the ordeal. Ryan was known for his humility, integrity, and for refusing to join in any of the attacks against her. He entered her office, calm but curious about why he'd been called to meet the new CEO. "You wanted to see me, Ms. Thompson?" Ryan asked politely, his eyes full of respect. "Yes, please have a seat," Amara said, her gaze warm and direct. "Ryan, over the past few days, you've been the only one who maintained the professionalism and respect we all should show one another." Ryan blinked in surprise and nodded modestly. "I just believe we should judge people by their ability and character, not by bias or emotion." Amara smiled and nodded. "Exactly why I'm appointing you as Vice President of Strategy and Business Development for Horizon Enterprises USA. I know you'll be the right partner to help me rebuild this company." Ryan's eyes widened, emotion flickering across his face. "Ms. Thompson, I'm deeply honored by your trust, but are you sure? This is a very big role." "I'm absolutely sure," Amara replied, her voice firm and sincere. "You've proven your maturity, professionalism, and ethics. Horizon Enterprises needs a leader like you to drive positive change." Ryan took a steadying breath and nodded. "Thank you, Ms. Thompson. I promise to do my very best to live up to your confidence." Amara gave a final nod, her eyes shining with steadfast belief in him. "I know you won't let me down." News of Ryan Patel's appointment spread rapidly throughout the company, reinforcing employees' faith in a brighter, fairer future under Amara's leadership. Many praised how she recognized and rewarded talent, putting fairness above personal feelings. Her credibility and the trust placed in her only grew stronger. Outside Horizon Enterprises, the media quickly hailed the decision as a savvy move, noting that Amara clearly valued talent and upheld core values. Experts agreed this was a positive sign that the company was genuinely moving toward a more professional, civilized, and equitable workplace. In her spacious office, Amara exhaled softly, feeling lighter than ever. This moment didn't just affirm her authority, it vividly demonstrated that dignity, honesty, and fairness are always worthy of reward. Now, Amara Thompson knew she stood at the beginning of a new journey, one of even greater responsibility, yet filled with promise and hope, and she was more than ready to walk that path with all the strength, poise, and integrity she embodied. After making those important decisions, Amara quietly left her office and headed up to Horizon Enterprises' rooftop. The air there was fresh and still, with only a gentle breeze stirring, as if to carry away every ounce of pressure and worry she carried. Standing on the expansive terrace, Amara looked down at the sweeping panorama of Seattle. It was both breathtaking and powerful. Skyscrapers clustered together, reaching for the sky, their glass windows aglow in the sunset, casting a vivid yet peaceful scene. From this vantage, every challenge and hardship she'd endured seemed to shrink away, reminding her of the courageous journey she'd bravely walked to arrive at this moment. Lost in her thoughts, Amara felt a warm hand lightly settle on her shoulder, pulling her back to the present. She turned to find her husband, Michael Thompson, standing beside her with a gentle smile and kind, understanding eyes. Michael, a strong, steadfast black man with a deep, reassuring voice, had been her rock and quiet source of strength throughout the recent storms she faced. "I knew I'd find you up here," Michael said softly, his tone as warm as a soothing balm. "I always come to the highest spot when I need to think," Amara replied with a soft smile, gratitude shining in her eyes. Michael stepped closer, gazing out over the city below. "You did it, Amara. Everything you went through is a testament to your dignity and inner strength." Amara nodded in quiet acknowledgement, her heart full. She recalled her darkest moments, the cruel words hurled at her, the contemptuous looks that surrounded her. Yet in all those times, she'd never lost her self-respect or her sense of worth. She'd stood tall and calm, meeting every trial with resilience and an unshakable belief in her true value. "Michael, sometimes I wonder if I could have made it through without you by my side," Amara said, her voice trembling with emotion, tears glistening in her eyes. Michael gently squeezed her hand. "No, Amara. It was you who overcame everything on your own. I was just here, always ready to support you when you felt weary." Leaning into his shoulder, Amara savored this rare moment of peace amid life's relentless pace and trials. All her burdens and anxieties faded, replaced by a profound sense of joy and calm. "What happened at Horizon isn't just a lesson for me," Amara said after a pause, her tone deep and resolute. "It's a lesson for all of us, that prejudice and bias will always fail against determination, dignity, and inner strength." Michael listened in silence, pride shining in his eyes. Amara continued, her voice growing stronger, as if issuing a powerful declaration to everyone still battling injustice and bias out there. "We can't change the world in a single day, but each of us can choose to stand firm and face our struggles with integrity. When we refuse to let others' prejudices define us, that is the greatest victory." She paused again, looking deeply into Michael's loving and encouraging gaze. "And I've learned that true power isn't about dominating others with authority. It's about standing firm through every storm, sustained by self-respect, inner strength, and perseverance." Michael's grip tightened in affirmation, his eyes full of unwavering trust and love. "Amara, you've done something few can. You didn't just overcome those who insulted you. You conquered your own fears and doubts." Amara smiled gently, drawing in a deep breath as she looked once more at the city bathed in the golden glow of dusk. From this rooftop, the entire skyline seemed to promise hope and possibility. "I want my story to be a reminder, Michael," she said softly, but with fierce determination. "That every person deserves respect, no matter their race, gender, or background. We all have the right to stand tall in our own dignity." Michael nodded, his voice rich and warm as his final affirmation. "I believe your story will inspire countless others, and I will always be here beside you." Looking into her husband's eyes, Amara felt more peaceful and happy than ever before. She knew that many challenges still lay ahead, but she trusted deeply in her own inner strength. Bathed in the gentle sunlight of the setting sun, Amara Thompson stood tall and proud, stronger than ever. She understood at last that no prejudice could stand against the power of dignity, self-respect, and resolve within each person. That, she realized, was the greatest and most meaningful victory of all. Amara Thompson's journey shows us that true strength doesn't come from status, power, or material wealth, but from the self-respect, dignity, and perseverance we uphold in the face of every challenge. What do you think about how Amara overcame prejudice and injustice to reclaim her dignity and justice? Share your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. If you found this story meaningful and inspiring, please hit the like button, share it with your loved ones, and don't forget to subscribe for more compelling and heartfelt stories. Thank you for joining us.